What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Frankie Bones, and in today's video we are going to be breaking down the CDL Stage 3 Qualifier Week 2 matchups that we have coming up starting on Friday. Give you guys our predictions for who we think is going to win and all that jazz. But first, just wanted to pull up my breaking point team just to show you guys how we did through the first weekend. Now, I didn't really look at a week by week when I did this in Major 2, but obviously looking at some of the scores, Shotzi with just about 60 points. They only ended up playing one match, and they will have 2 matches each of the next 2 weekends. So, expecting his performance to go up as they get more set with Dan Ghosty in the roster. However, Nero and Beans both played pretty well. Obviously, they both had 2 matchups as well. So looking for them to continue to fry, put up more points, and looking at Havoc, again, sort of disappointing, 28.2. Hoping that he picks it up again. I believe that they only played 1 matchup. They have 2 coming up this upcoming weekend, so we'll go over those matches, but hopefully they get a little bit better with Capital in the lineup as well as Tyler Fellow, get a little more consistency and teamwork rolling, and I think this team just might turn out all right. So now we will hop over to our preview and predictions for the Week 2 qualifiers of Stage 3, heading up to the OpTic Texas Major. Starting on Friday, again, all these matches will start at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We have the Atlanta FaZe going up against the London Royal Ravens. Honestly, not really going to put too much thought into this one. It's going to be a 3-0 in favor of the Atlanta FaZe. They've been rolling. London, I think, still needs to make a team change. Their ARs have been very inconsistent in Scraps and Paul X, and I think they could probably use the help of either Gizmo or Harry. We'll see what happens after this week, or maybe midweek. Obviously, Toronto changed midweek last weekend, so we'll see what happens there. For our second matchup, we have the Toronto Ultra going up against my and our OpTic Texas team. This one's pretty interesting. Again, Toronto made a change last weekend, bringing in Hicksy for Standy. Not really sure how I felt about that. Hicksy had been playing well in challenges to that point. They noted that it was more a change to bring in Hicksy than to replace Standy. Again, he's, I think, number 3 or top 5 in the top 250 on ranked. He's been grinding, still a great player, but I'm going to give this one no surprise here in favor of OpTic Texas in a 3-1 fashion. Just more time to play together. They've been playing ranked together. Hopefully scrims have been going really well. And overall, these are my boys. I'm going to ride with them. I trust the progress that they're hopefully making. And I'll give it to them in a 3-1. Obviously, Toronto's a great team on online, which they've proven over the last few years. And with this team already through about the first half of the season, but I'll give this one to OpTic 3-1. Moving on now to our last matchup of the day, we have the LA Gorillas going up against the Boston Breach. Don't think I really want to put out a separate video to talk about it, but I did send up a tweet earlier today. Obviously, incredibly unfortunate what is going on with the Guard, who is sort of the parent company for the LA Gorillas, and I believe they have a Valorant team and other teams in esports. Obviously it's just incredibly unfortunate. They fired their entire staff, and it looks like they're going to be terminating all their esports teams by the end of the season if they're not bought out. So, an interesting situation, and obviously a big news break for a lot of people. It seemed to be very sudden. So, just in that regard, obviously I want to be able to give this one to them to bounce back, but I have Boston taking this one 3-1. Hopefully the boys Nero and Beans pick up, and I think overall that this team is coming together. They're pretty well rounded, and they may even make a push here at this Major 3 tournament. Moving on to Saturday, which is February 25th, Friday the 24th. I guess I forgot to mention that. But starting at 3 o'clock, we have the New York Subliners going up against the Toronto Ultra. This one I've been going back and forth on for a little while. New York, obviously, a surprising exit early on. As to Toronto at the Major 2 tournament up in Boston. But I think I'm going to give this one to Toronto. Sort of just looking at how I think that the weekend may play out. I think that the matchup the day before against OpTic, they don't end up showing up and playing that well against a team that really you don't have a ton of footage on. Obviously, Dan Ghosty coming in as the main, bring a lot more vocal tendencies in the comms, and the plays may even look a little different. I think they might get blindsided by that a little bit. But I think Toronto's going to bounce back, and I'm going to give this one in a 3-2 fashion to the Ultra, bounce back and get the win here on Saturday and go 1-1 on the weekend. Now for the 4:30 game, the second game of the Saturday slate, we have the Seattle Surge going up against the LA Thieves. Seattle has last weekend won a search and destroy, so that horrific streak is over. Looks like they're ultimately rounding out a little bit more as a team. Makes sense that they stuck, being that they won a major last year, but I don't believe that they're going to be able to beat the LA Thieves. They've been rolling incredibly hot through the Major 2 cycle and obviously almost won the tournament, probably the hottest team in the tournament. Sort of ran out of gas by the end in the finals, but I like LA Thieves here. They've been playing really well. Their game knowledge is great. They've been grinding the game, and I think that, that obviously plays in a lot with the spawn systems and comms, just the way the game is played. So, even though Surge has looked better in the search, I'm not sure exactly what game mode they're going to win. LA Thieves has looked incredibly strong in all of them, but I'm going to give this one 3-1 in favor of LAT. Now for the third matchup on Saturday, we have the Boston Breach going up against the Florida Mutineers. Now this one's actually really cool because it was announced that the Florida Mutineers are going to be doing a live watch party from their headquarters, which is really cool. I have the graphic up here on screen. Gonna assume that tickets are already sold out for this if you're down in the Florida area, but really awesome to see these teams adding, some more interesting elements to watching and getting more involved with the Call of Duty League teams. And this again is on a team-by-team basis, but really like this play. Unfortunately, I don't think the home crowd, quote-unquote, is going to do anything. The teams are obviously still playing on LAN. And I sort of back up what I'm saying about the Boston Breach here. I think they're going to have a 2-0 weekend. I'm going to give this one in a 3-1 fashion to Boston. I think that Florida's still looking to rebound again. I think that there's just been a ton of roster changes for them. They need to get their footing, get their teamwork in. It may come next weekend, I'm not exactly sure, but I think they're going to struggle against the slaying power of the Boston Breach. Still just not quite enough. I think the ARs will probably dominate here, with my boy Nero as well, hopefully going off. But I would give this one in a 3-1 fashion to Boston Breach. And finally, to round out our Saturday slate, we have the Vegas Legion going up against the Atlanta FaZe. Again, just not too much to say here. They did look good last weekend, but Atlanta FaZe is just a different beast. They looked incredibly consistent. Their map pool is getting more and more refined, to where it's really just pick your poison with this team. Similar to LA Thieves, I think are getting to that level as well. Definitely emerging as the top 2 teams in the league. With NYSL slipping a little bit, Toronto and OpTic, those 3 teams sort of in that lower tier as well. But I think that I'm going to give this one to the FaZe in a 3-1 fashion. I think Vegas has looked a little feisty. Too Real did look pretty good last weekend, I will say. Wasn't really sure what we were going to get from him. But if they're continuing to work and grind, they brought in a new coach as well, which I think has been helping with the transition with Too Real. So I'll give them a map, but I think Atlanta FaZe, the maps that they win, they're going to dominate. Vegas may be able to take a search, I'm not sure. They're probably going to get Embassy Search out of there. That is definitely Atlanta FaZe's best map. But I'll give this one in a 3-1 fashion to Atlanta. Finally, we move to our Sunday slate on the 26th. Kicking us off, we're going to have the London Royal Ravens versus the LA Gorillas. Now, this is the spot where I think that LA is going to get their win. Obviously, they've gone through a lot this week. Seeing stuff in the news as well as the, sort of situation overall. I think, again, obviously it's pretty sad, but, London just really doesn't look like a great team right now outside of ASIM. I think that looking at the team overall, the ARs are really struggling. Nasty has developed a little bit in this game. He did play well last year as well. I think that him and Sim are playing pretty well as a duo, but they need some AR help, and I think this is where somebody like RCDs and Assault, the older AR duo, as well as the crack subs with Joe and Exceed, I think they're going to be able to show up. I think this is going to be a weird one, though. I'm going to give this one a 3-2 to LAG. I think London knows that they have to put something up with this roster. They're going to have to make a change. I would say after this weekend, they're at the bottom of the table and definitely need to make a push. But for that reason, we'll say it gets spicy. I'll give it to a 3-2 in favor of LAG. For our second matchup of the Sunday slate, we have the Minnesota Rocker taking on OpTic Texas. Now, this one is really cool as well. Minnesota Rocker, I'll pull up the graphic, will be doing a watch party in Wisconsin, which is super cool. Obviously, they have a pretty good region that they would be able to reach in terms of their fan base. The Minnesota Rocker team overall does a great job of engaging with their fans, and I think that this will be a really successful event for them overall from a organizational standpoint, but in the matchup, that I'm not going to be able to give this one to them. The Rocker always end up giving OpTic a run for their money, whether it be at the major where they 3-0'd them, or online the past few years they've had some trouble with this team, but give them respect. I'll make it a 3-2 OpTic Texas. I think this is a really good team. They're rounding into form again, like I said. They had a good Major 2 run and a good second half of the Major 2 qualifiers, sort of after, again, that food poisoning situation where they all got food poisoning and then came back to reverse sweep. I think they have the momentum, but I'm going to give this one to OpTic Texas. I'll always give it to my boys, but I'll give it to them in a 3-2 fashion. It'll be a really tough and gritty series as well. Finally, to round out the weekend on Sunday and the Week 2 qualifier matches, we have the Florida Mutineers going up against the Seattle Surge. This one's a really interesting one because we have a Search and Destroy team honestly going up against a Respawn team. Obviously, Search did get that win like I'd mentioned earlier last weekend in Search, but I don't think that they're going to be able to really keep up with the firepower of Seattle. I think Sib has been struggling a little bit in Stage 2. Even last weekend didn't look spectacular. I think he's going to have a big bounce-back weekend this weekend. Even against the LA Thieves, I think he's going to put up some big numbers. The team desperately needs him because he needs to be that second star alongside of Pred. I don't think that Mac is consistent enough to really be that guy. And the role that Accuracy plays as the leader of the team, I'm just not sure that he's going to be able to put up those crazy numbers to beat some of these top-end teams. So for that reason, I'm going to give this one to Seattle, Sib with a big series, and they take this one in a 3-1 fashion. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Please feel free to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Again, we're on the push to 100 subscribers and beyond, so it'd mean the world if you have a quick minute if you're still watching at this point in the video to drop a like. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys disagree with any of my picks or any of the reasoning that you guys have for the teams that I was talking about. But for now, that's going to do it for this video, guys. This has been your boy Frankie Bones, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Peace out.